Mhm.
Code to my computer. Give us a second and then we'll go live. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna go to my time. Ooh, let's go back to my time. Oh, we're not going to do the same thing. Oh, I gotta do. All right, let's get to my timeline. Okay, let's load this up. Still scrolling. Sydney that we are live. Okay. Okay. We are live. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Leroy McKenzie Jr., coming to you. It's the third Monday, so y'all know it's the brand new development series brought to you by JNF Enterprises and Black Professional Men, which is an organization that seeks to ensure the future of the African American male, and we do that by uh, educating, activating, and elevating you, bringing you podcasts like this, bringing you guests like this, bringing you those things that are going to not make you better, but also make our communities better. And today I have a special guest with me that I am just so excited to bring him on to share his knowledge, just to share his information with you, some resources with you that I know that he brings with him. And I'm going to let him tell you all a little bit about himself because, as y'all know, I don't do the bios. I let our guests talk to you about who they are, what they do, and those kind of things. And I want to welcome Mr. Paul Coates, who is the owner of Black Classic Press, which is located right here in Baltimore, Maryland. And we'll get into talking about his business, his industry, and all of those good things that you like to hear. But I want to welcome Mr. Coates. How are you today?
I'm doing tremendously, Roy, and thank you for inviting me in. Um, yeah, I'm doing tremendous. Feel real good.
And I appreciate you coming and joining us. I really appreciate you being there with us. And I thank you for acknowledging and being with us who we for the show. So we're going to start off. I want you to, if we can start off by just having you tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, where kind of your beginnings and everything, and then we'll get into our conversation about what we are looking to talk about
Okay, so uh, like so many other people, one of the challenging things is to talk about me.
tonight.
So I'm gonna bring it on this time. I'm gonna step up to the challenge. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So uh, my name is Paul Coates. I'm the owner, director, founder. Most of the time, I'm the janitor at Black Classic Press, which is based here in Baltimore. Black Classic Press is a uh, book publishing, book printing company. On the publishing side, so there are two sides of it. I said book publishing and book printing. On the book publishing side,
Mhm.
we have a focus on republishing books by and about people of African descent. And I emphasize republishing because my passion, my love, and how I come to publishing really is inside of republishing books.
Mm.
A lot of people go for new books, which I like and I buy, of course.
Mhm.
But as a young man, I was struck with how much information about Black people was just not available to Black people, and how important it would be to have that information available. And that's what I've devoted most of my life to, certainly most of my adult life to. Part of that, in conjunction with that, notion of being able to produce that information. You know, Leroy, I started Black Classic Press after I came out of the Black Panther Party.
Oh, wow.
I was a member of the Black Panther Party. And when I left the Black Panther Party, I still wanted to engage in educating our community.
Hmm.
And it just so happened that I also had a number of Panthers in Baltimore that I was responsible for.
Oh,
Because
wow.
at the time I was defense captain. Before I left the party, I
Hmm.
was defense captain of the Panther Party, and I was responsible for those people on the street and responsible for the people in jail. When I
Oh, okay.
left the Panther Party, I still felt a responsibility for people on the street,
Mm.
responsibility for
Wow.
Panthers that were in jail. And so I started it wasn't Black Classic Press at first. I
Hmm.
started a prison program. And
Really?
the
Okay.
prison program was intended to get books into the jail,
Hmm.
to heighten the consciousness of people in jail so that we could perform the miracle that had happened to Malcolm, so that we could
Wow.
perform the miracle that happened to George Jackson,
Hmm.
and the miracle that happened to so many other brothers who went to jail and took the time to educate themselves and came back in our community
Hmm.
and worked for the interests of our community. So that's what initially I started with. I started putting together a community program that could get those books in jail,
Hmm.
and it had three parts to it. The first part was a bookstore that would supply books in the community
Okay.
and supply books free to brothers who were incarcerated.
Mm.
It would also serve as a place when brothers came out of jail, and we were mainly focused on brothers because the female population at that time was pretty insignificant. It isn't like it is now.
Okay. Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
but we felt that we could provide a landing space for people coming out of jail where they could at least just get a breather, get
Hmm.
their head back together, maybe work in the bookshop. We could do that for some of the brothers. We also wanted to set up a publishing company
Hmm.
that would produce books that could radically change people.
Wow.
And we wanted to set up a printing company. Does this
Hmm.
sound familiar to you? Yeah. So we wanted to set up a printing company that could supply the books that actually allowed us to produce the books
Hmm.
that the publishing company would sell, and the publishing company would distribute to other bookstores, and the publishing company would distribute to that bookstore we created.
Wow.
There is, at that time, there was and there still is this need for us to own the means of production. And I don't care whether we're talking about on a grassroots basis or whether we're talking about on
Hmm.
a corporate basis. How do we approach that, and how do we do that? How do we make things for ourselves and make them available
Mm.
to ourselves? So all of that was wrapped up into how I came to um, be a publisher, a book publisher. At an early point, the prison program dropped. Part of it was because of the repression that the feds brought down on us. Part of
Okay.
it was because of the repression that the state of Maryland, brought down on us and the prisoners to
Hmm.
keep that information out of the jail.
Wow.
That was part of it. The other part was we just could not sustain the ideal vision of turning as many brothers around as we wanted to turn around. That
Mhm.
wasn't happening.
Right.
We continued, though, to support the prison program. We continued with programs that the Black Panther Party actually has started. We had a free food program where we supplemented people, like when people ran out of their welfare checks or rent or got busted. We would do things to raise money, get people out of jail, provide lawyers to them, provide support for people who were in jail. So we continued to do that stuff for quite a while. And at some point, people who were with me fell off, and it ended up just being me.
Oh, okay.
And when it just ended up being me, the programs went away, but I continued in books. Bottom line is, probably about 10 years in, it occurred to me that I wasn't a community program, that I actually was a business.
Okay.
And I had to put on a different hat. And it was about at that point, maybe it was 10, 15 years, maybe it took me even longer time. So we started in 1972. And by 1978, I think I realized it was a business. In 1988 is when we incorporated and became Black Classic Press, Inc.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
wow.
started as the George Jackson Prison Movement. Long story, but that's how we get into publishing books, and that's how we get into printing books. And a lot of that fire is still at the base.
Wow. And I love that, because I didn't know that backstory though either, Mr. Coates. I mean, because I know that you have been around, and we'll talk about that too with you, how many years you've been in business now. You said since 88. And I think that is awesome to be there. But even how you began the business back, just from working with the Black Panther Party, and then wanting to be able to assist brothers that were in prison, and to shift their mindsets. And that's that's great. Now, did you have a love for books, and that was what got you started even within the Panther Party, where you thought it would be a great idea to be able to supply the books?
I always knew the power of books, and always had a love for books. As a child, I had a love for books. And even before the Panther Party, there was in Baltimore, the oldest Black bookstore that I'm aware of was started by a brother, named Walter Lively. He had that bookstore when I came out of the military and came to Baltimore to get married. And that would have been like 68 or something like that, about 68.
Okay.
When I came, there wasn't a Black bookstore. A few years later, like 69, 70, Walter set up a Black bookstore. That was the oldest one. There were 2 other stores that sold Black books.
Okay.
The only place that I found comfort when I came to this city was inside those bookstores. That was the place that I would go and identify myself with those books and delve into those books. So I always had a love for books. When I left the Black Panther Party, in Oakland, California. And I didn't know anyone in Oakland, or the one person I knew was a sister, and she had moved. So I was on the street. I probably had about $11 in my pocket or something.
Oh, wow.
I think it was even less than that I had initially. But the point is, I got on a bus, and I figured I would just ride that bus from one end of the line to the other end of the line. I got on that bus, and in about 10 minutes or less, that bus passed the public library downtown, and I knew where I was going. I got off, I walked back, and I set myself in the library reading, and I spent a couple of hours just cooling out with the books, and then I figured out what I was going to do. It was at that point that I figured out, how I was going to get back to Baltimore. So books have always been important. And then just knowing the transformational power of books and information in our community. Books have always been at the center of change. And a lot of people don't know this as a history, but we've always had a community that exchanged books. If you think about it, one of the most powerful books was done by someone who was educated with books. He was a clothes seller, a rag seller, and he was a bookseller. And that would have been David Walker. This is like 1829, he publishes his appeal. That appeal is still one of the most powerful Black manifestos. Everybody, I think should read it, but especially everybody who's Black should be fluent in David Walker's appeal. He talks the same stuff that he lays out in 1829 as a framework of identifying with our community is the same stuff that we're dealing with right now.
Wow.
We're dealing with the same stuff right now. So it's significant that Walker would publish his appeal. It's significant that all over the slave South and even up north, they had a bounty on Walker because of what he was saying in the appeal and the fact that he was calling out to people. It's significant that that book, Walker's Appeal, is what is associated with Nat Turner's uprising.
Wow.
In 1831. It's like Walker had a way of getting books into the South. He would send them down on ships that went down there, ferries that went down the coast and what have you. He would have sailors. He would sew books into old clothes. They would get passed to Black folk. Total insurrection. Books have always played a central part to our ability to liberate ourselves. That's enough of that.
Wow. I mean, and that's awesome. Now, what do you attribute? Because you said you officially made Black Classic Press a business in 1988. Because that's 32 years. Now, what do you attribute that having a business that long to and having that sustainability?
Okay, so the business part actually goes from 1978.
Okay.
We incorporated it in 1980.
Oh, got you. So that's 42 years.
yeah, it actually is.
I'm sorry. Right.
No, it's cool. We're looking at 42 in terms of a commercial structure. And as I said, we were doing business. I just didn't understand we were doing business.
Right.
With that. Your question in that context becomes, phrase your question again, please?
Well, just about what do you attribute? What are the keys to your sustainability as an entrepreneur and as a business for that long? That's a great a long time to be in business, 42 years. What do you attribute that to that success?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that. Were I a more religious person, I definitely would say God.
Okay.
I mean, because that like when we don't really understand and things are so powerful to us, then we go to the supreme being, which may be the cause anyway. But there are things along the way, I think a lot that need to be taken into account. If we say God, there's things still need to be taken into account. I think part of it is like the goodness of people. And I believe in the ultimate goodness of people. Not that I believe everybody's good, but I believe in the body of people who I was born into, the body of people who I've had the pleasure to deal with. There are just magnificent men and women who have helped me along the way. They came along at the right time. I think family has been important. I think ultimately also having a passion for what I do.
Okay.
That people feel that passion, they really, really feel that there's something that I'm talking about or some direction that I'm headed into that means something to them.
Okay.
It
Okay.
means something larger than me. It's not about Paul Coates. Never been about Paul Coates getting rich. Never been about Paul Coates um, being the biggest. It's always, you won't find anybody that's known me that does not know me as someone who has spoken, in favor of uplifting our community.
Mhm.
I think that resonates with people, and people have helped me out of that space, Leroy.
Yeah, definitely. Now, do you think that that's one of the things that we've gotten away from as far as our community is that caring about our businesses that we have and supporting them?
I don't know that's not my experience.
Mm,
I don't think we've gotten away from that.
okay.
And
Okay.
that makes you strange. But I don't think we've gotten away from it at all.
Hmm.
Um, Even to this day, there are too many times that I will walk into a room and people will be expecting a white guy to come in. And the black folks around the table will look up, at the eyes. And more than once they say, "Oh God, you came in that door. I'm so glad a black person came because I'm just tired of spending." And these are people who often control large budgets, you
Mm,
know, and
hmm.
for all of their lives, for 30, 40 years or more, every time a vendor came in front of them, it was a white person.
Mm, hmm.
They're looking for an opportunity to spend money oftentimes with black people.
Right. Right.
At least that's what I've found. I haven't found people not supporting me.
Mm,
That's just not it. Um, I often think when people don't support me, it's my failings. I have
mm,
not communicated the value of my proposition to them and have not made it a case that compelled them to support me over top of somebody else.
mm.
You see, that's on me. That ain't on them.
Wow.
That's the way I'm in the community. I ain't talking about what the person has not done.
Hmm.
I'm saying like Paul Coates. Okay, so what did you do or not do?
Hmm.
Where are you in this process? Where are you responsible for your being? That's me. I don't think our community has shifted. I've told you I believe in the basic good
Hmm.
of people
Hmm.
and the basic good of our community.
Wow, that I like the way that you put that about being able to putting the onus on us as entrepreneurs, saying it's up to you to effectively communicate the value that you bring, that your business brings, that your brand brings to someone. Because I've always said that every business solves a problem. It
Mm-hmm.
was created to solve a problem, and the only way that people can understand their problem is being solved by you is by you, like you said, effectively communicating to them how your product or service solves that problem for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if they'll see it, if they'll get it and realize that you do have the answer for them if you effectively communicate it to them. So.
And contrary to that, if we stand on the side and keep pointing our finger
Mm.
at them, you know what I'm saying? Well, they not supporting me, they not helping me, they've never helped me. That's a nonsensical argument. And it means that I don't have to do anything. It means
Mm.
I have to do nothing at all. You know what I mean?
Wow. Hmm.
Whereas when you do turn it around, you can see that I have work to do. I
Mm.
have work to do. And the question is, am I going to do it? Am I going to figure it out fast enough? You see, those then become the question. How much harder do I have to run? How much faster do I have to be to get this?
Hmm. Hmm.
But it leaves you in a constant state of exploration.
Wow.
That's how I know it.
Wow. Now, now, how do you define success? What would you believe to be what success? What does success look like to you?
That's interesting. It's real interesting because it applies in different ways.
Hmm.
If we're talking about in business, um, I mean, success to me, and I used to tell people this, success to me meant keeping the lights on, you know? It
Mm-hmm.
meant making sure that people's paycheck didn't bounce.
Mm.
If I could do that every week, I was being successful.
Right.
If I was able to get paid, I was real successful. You know what I mean? I mean, I was real successful. But the other side of it has to do with if I say I'm about the business of Black books, whatever it is, if I say I'm about the business of printing, success to me has a lot to do with whether I'm communicating that to
Mm.
people, whether people really get it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I can look at that, even when I've got enough money over on this side, I
Mm-hmm.
constantly look at where I'm not being successful.
Okay. Okay.
I think there's a trap. I think success is like a destination.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like, and it's a continual destination. It's like what you continually travel to,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, as opposed to being a place.
Mm. Right.
You know,
Right. 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 Right.
I don't. I hope that I never go to bed and that in my final breath that I'm not thinking I was successful.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
I hope that I'm thinking I was unsuccessful and I got so much more to
To
do.
do.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, I let other people around me talk about he was successful. It don't work like that for me.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm motivated by what I have not done and the challenges that are in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think success and even people telling you you're successful and you listening to that
Mm-hmm.
um, can tame the spirit a little bit. I think it's for me it's kind of dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And I think it's key that you're saying because I believe success is ever evolving, and I think that there's levels. You know, success for, let's say, for us graduating from high school, that was success. Graduating from college, that was success. Being, like you said, the payroll, and this is the business perspective of it. You know, being in business and being able to make your payroll every week was something that was that's successful to you. All of those things, being even accomplishing something, like you said, with the books that you wanted to accomplish when you first started in the prison, getting them in the prison was successful in and of itself, because I'm quite sure when you first did it, that wasn't something that was readily done
That's right.
for the inmates and everything. So even that was successful in and of
Yeah.
itself
Yeah.
and everything. So it's ever evolving, because as I remember Muhammad Ali, there was a quote from him saying that if you're the same man at 40 that you were when you were 20, you wasted 20 years of your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that to me said that we should be evolving in our lives, because there's certain levels that we want to achieve. There's certain, whether it's marriage, we want to achieve getting married, then achieving certain levels within the marriage. How do we make the marriage last and go through those different stages that we go through and just in life, yet along have a partner to go through those changes as well. So you're right. I mean, it is, success is always evolving.
So I just got something from your talking
Uh-huh.
to Leroy. I just got something from your speaking.
Okay.
So what success occurs to me? A success occurs to me as a state in the present.
Mm.
It occurs to me as a state in the present.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I have a reaction to it. So now, having successfully accomplished things,
Mm-hmm.
or the fact that I've accomplished things does not bother me,
Mm-hmm.
because those things are now in the past.
Mm-hmm.
They do not block me from what needs to be done. I can look at those things And I can enjoy sometimes those accomplishments. I don't spend too much time on them, but
Mm-hmm.
I can look at that. But I have to tell you, I am in pursuit of success, but
Mm.
I never expect to get there.
Wow.
Um, and it's okay. It's like you were saying about Muhammad Ali. So it's like thinking about perfection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine someone achieving perfection and they're just perfect? Well,
Mm-hmm.
what the hell else is there to do?
Right.
It's boring. You know what I mean? It seems very boring. So I think about success as being that way, man. Like I just want to keep doing, man.
Mm-hmm.
Keep
Mm-hmm.
learning, keep hitting the challenges.
Right. And I think for those those of us those that we consider to be great, they do. It's a never achieving. It's always like you said. It's never a specific destination. It's
Yeah,
always a pursuit of it,
it's the
because you're never
pursuit.
going to get there. You're never going to get there, but it's the pursuit of it that
Yeah.
keeps you moving and going into what it is that we that we're looking to achieve. So I think that's great. So what I want to ask you next is as an entrepreneur, um, can you talk to us about how important it is to develop um, a whether it's a business plan, a marketing strategy, a branding strategy in achieving, and being able to run a successful business?
Mm.
How important is that?
I think it's very, very important that you have an understanding of your market.
Mm,
I think it's very, very important that you have an understanding of your business, that you have an understanding of the environment, and that you have a marketing strategy that you're following.
mm, mm,
I am not one of the people that ascribe to the importance of having written business plans.
mm, mm,
I'm just not
mm,
one of those. I'm not one of those people because the world doesn't show me that.
mm.
It doesn't. It shows me that can work for some people.
Right.
Definitely can work for some people. It shows me that banks use it to make financial decisions and
Correct.
stuff like that.
Right.
But people who understand their business also have an understanding of the market that they're in. They understand in real time. Apple wasn't started with a business plan. Microsoft wasn't started with a business plan. Now, at some point, it became critical. I mean,
Mm.
they can't exist without it now. There's no way they can exist without it.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
But if you look at most businesses that exist in this country and most businesses that exist in the world, they don't exist inside a business plan.
Mm.
At a certain point, business plans become really, really critical. And I'm not knocking, please don't think I'm knocking anybody that's got a business plan. I'm not doing that at all. I just come from a school of thinking that understanding the business and understanding what you're doing and where you are in the business,
Mm-hmm.
understanding the limits and the tolerance of what your product is
Mm-hmm.
and how important that product plays to the market that you want to enter, all of that stuff, all of that can be done without a business plan. And from my experience with business in this country, that's the way it's done. Now, I know people will say, like, when you go to business school, we're going to work on this business plan. And so many businesses succeeded with business plans, no question about that. But without question, I'll speak anecdotally here because I haven't read anything recently. I used to read this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but over and over and over, you'll find that the majority of businesses in this country, successful ones and those that fail, do not have business plans. And business plan is not the critical thing. Understanding the market, understanding the product, and really understanding where you fit within the space, and then having the passion and having the energy to transmit what you've got to the market that needs it is what's really, really critically important. And then at some point, you're going to need the business plan.
And to that effect, that's what I was going to ask you now. Do you believe or do you think that the business plan can help you to be able to do that, to be able to better understand the market, to better define who and what the industry or where the industry is and kind of where it's going, that type of thing?
For some people, yes, absolutely. For some people, but the idea that the first place that people start is with a business plan, nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. There are just too many examples. I mean, the overwhelming amount of businesses in this country, if you go to them, they didn't start with business plans. I mean, they just didn't start with business plan. We can go down the rack. For Chick-fil-A didn't start with a business plan.
But is that why the majority and overwhelmingly the majority of businesses they fail within the first 5 years because they don't have that? No. Okay, what do you think that attributes that them not being or them failing within the first 5 years? What do you contribute?
You can look at the person themselves, the person who's running the business, the person who simply because people call themselves entrepreneurs, that don't make them entrepreneurs.
Well, that's true too.
I mean, like the question for the entrepreneur is, are you willing to risk everything you got? Are you willing to put everything you got on? You believe in this that much? Are you willing to risk everything you got and put it on the table and lose it? Are you willing to lose it? Do you believe in it that much? I'm telling you, when you ask people that question, they begin to leave the room.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Not to say they have to do it, but I'm saying if you're not prepared to go all the way with it, whether you got the right idea or the wrong idea, if you're not prepared to go all the way, you done lost already.
Yeah.
You've lost already. I'm not going to say that some people don't succeed, but I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. A business plan is not the critical difference. It's not the critical difference. You give the person who is really entrepreneurial a business plan, and they're going to sit it on the side because in their mind, they already know how to get this product out. Now, at a certain point, they need it. It's just no question. They need a business plan.
Right.
And certainly when it becomes at a certain point, particularly in your finance, you're going to need a business plan. There's just no question about it. And you're going to need people who can advise you in a smart way. And a business plan helps with that. It really, really, really does. But the difference in between success and failure is not the business plan.
Wow.
It has to do with the person. It has to do with the product. It has to do with timing of the product. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, all of those things. And look, people don't want to deal with this, but a lot of this stuff has to deal with chance. It really, really has to deal with chance. It has to deal. I'm not the best publisher. I didn't survive at this stuff for 42 years because I just told you I don't have a business plan. I've had business plans. I don't have a business plan now. But I'm not the best Black publisher. There've been great Black publishers that I've known over this time. But different things worked in my favor to help me be here. Different things, in the middle of this virus thing where folks are just going to pieces and what have you, there are different things that are working that allow me to be here now. That ain't in the business plans.
Yeah, I don't think this was in anybody's business plan right here. And I'm glad you brought that up about dealing with the COVID-19 because that leads us into my next question and how can Black-owned businesses, and I remember a couple of weeks ago when you did the conference call with it was your company, Black Classic Press as printers. You brought together bookstores, you brought together authors, and you brought all of us together and you had a conversation about how we collectively can navigate through what we're going through now. Can you talk a little bit about that and how important that is for us and how we can navigate through this right now as Black-owned businesses and the Black community?
So you know, like what the conversation was then and what my conversation continually is, like people got to get up off their ass, you know. It's like I have to be in action. You've got to be in action, but it does not mean we work as solitary units.
Mhm.
You know, in fact, if I'm really in action and I see you across the street, it's like we in the snow. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
see you across the street and you're struggling. I need to come over and help you push the
Wow.
car so
I
you
like that.
look. So we can do that all across the board. We're just not exercising that muscle.
Hmm.
And so that conversation, other conversations I've had with people, really is about exercising that muscle. So what are you doing, Leroy? What's happening over there? What are you doing over here, my man? What's going on over there? All of it is to generate ideas and hopefully, like at this time, man, look, this is like this is one of the greatest times that we've ever had in our life. You know, people say it's one of the worst times. Hell no, it ain't the worst time.
It's all
You know,
about your
it ain't the
perspective.
worst time. You know, we're not on slave ships right now. You know, we are just not on slave ships. Right now, there are so many opportunities for all of us to look at. And what we have to begin to do is set aside the part about how this is so bad and this is so tragic and this is so awful and figure out where's the opportunity in this.
Hmm.
Where is the opportunity? And where particularly is the opportunity for me? It doesn't mean I'm not saying, Leroy, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that the opportunity represents an opportunity for me to get rich. That's not
Absolutely.
what I'm talking about. It's not what I'm talking about. Although it might present that. You see
Hmm.
what I'm saying? It might present that for some people. I'm talking about something else. Where does it present the opportunity for me to magnify that gift that I bring to the world?
Hmm.
You see?
Hmm.
Now, it may bring me money, it may not bring me money. It may, whatever that opportunity is that I'm going to take advantage of, it may align, and hopefully it does align with my central core values, which gives me even greater strength in the world. It gives me a currency that never will go into the bank, but it gives me a currency that elevates me and illuminates me in and among the circle that I want to be illuminated in, respected among the people, the men and the women that I want to be. Where is the opportunity for that for me?
Hmm.
I'm
Hey
telling
Paul,
you,
hey Paul, that's a great point you bring up
hey
there. This
Marcus,
is
how you
Marcus
doing, man?
Asante. How you doing, man?
Good.
All right, good to see you. It's been a long time since
Same,
we talked.
same, brother.
I have been, championing Black Classic Press for many years.
Absolutely.
I have many books published by you in my library, and I have read them many times. I've told many people over the years the fact that you had published Doc Ben's books and how important that was
Yes.
to get that out to the world. And I still know some people that have his individual published books when he was doing them himself, and
Right.
on the old spiral binders and all that kind of stuff. So when you put them out in paperback, it was a big deal. That was a huge win for the community. But I'm also interested in terms of the business side, how that worked for you at that time, how the business changed over the decades since you printed those books, and what are the decisions you make for the new books that you publish, and how that goes in. What are the deciding factors that go into what you publish, and then also how does VCP digital printing fit into your overall business mix? And just give us some, discussion on how your business is looking with those kind of choices and decisions.
Sure. All of the things, Marcus, all of the things that you speak of are aligned with my central core values, and that is believing that information empowers us and empowers us as a community, that I have the power to bring that information into being, that I don't need white folks for that. You mentioned Dr. Ben, Joseph Ben Buchanan, and one of the great things about working with him, and one of the things I appreciated from the beginning, I wish I had some of his books here now. He used to he used to type his books up, Leroy. He would sit at a Selectric typewriter and he would type his books up. And then Marcus, I don't know if you know this, but he was a draftsman. He was an architectural draftsman. So he used to, like all of those illustrations in his book, he would draw those illustrations. He'd draw them, cut them up, tape them in, paste them into the page, and then go Xerox the stuff. You know? And so people loved his books and loved the fact that he talked about Africa as he did, but something else was going on there. What he was demonstrating was on a very, very basic level, he didn't need Random House to publish his books.
That's right.
You know, that he could do it the way, to the best of his ability, and then go get those books printed and sell them, and people would buy them. That's why those books stay like they are now. First of all, I wouldn't have the genius to go back and redo his stuff, but also they really are a demonstration of this Black man fighting against, you know, white psychology at his typewriter. This is what those books represent to me, and they'll always be that. So he helped me along that path, Marcus. And I don't know if you caught earlier, but Black Classic Press came out of the George Jackson prison movement. And so the idea of Black Classic, it came out of, we actually started the bookstore first, then the printing company, and then, the publishing company, and then the printing company. All of that was conceived as a program of uplifting our community, particularly people coming out of the jails.
I see.
So the fact that I have worked from one to the other reflects that people left me along the way, you know, and opened up opportunity, you know. But the plan for this stuff was what I was on then and still am on. And the idea of controlling and owning printing presses like makes a full circle. I just want to say this and I'll shut my mouth for a minute. One of the beauties of this is I came out of a time, Marcus, as you know, and I'm certain that you guys are into it as well, in which, you know, like people in our community believed we should own and control the stuff in our community, and that our dollars should circulate in our community.
That's right.
So one of the things, one of the joys in conceiving the bookstore publishing and printing part of this was that there would be a circle of money. And from that circle of money, people could get paid. Well, we actually have that now. We don't have the bookstore, but we supply Black bookstores across the country, okay?
Indeed.
So what happens is the Black consumer goes into those bookstores, they buy the books that the bookstore owner has had. That's like one turn, right? The bookstore owner goes to me or to Black distributors to buy the books. You got two turns, right?
Yep.
The distributors then go to Black publishers and buy the book. You got three turns going on there, right? Those publishers, many of those publishers will come to me to have me print their books. You got four turns, at least four turns of that money. It ain't left the Black community at all yet. And then it comes back into the Black community because, you know, all of our employees, you know, live and are Black, you know? So it's like, that's like a part of this that brings tremendous satisfaction, that we talk about these things and we get a chance to create. And trust me, the people in the bookstores, the Black bookstores, the publishers who print those books, the distributors, we all know this is happening, and we all enjoy being a part of that circle.
That's right.
Money turning.
And that's the thing. And you talked about something that's important that not a lot of us understand, that our dollar doesn't even spend 6 hours in our community. 6 hours. You have, I think the largest community, I want to say the Asian, I could be wrong, it's like 27 days. It spends.
Wow.
The Jewish community, I think, is like 17 days. And then I know Al's was at the bottom at 6 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's, I mean, that we, and how important that cycle that you just talked about right there with us. Think about, I mean, and think about that's the print. You talk about just this industry, the printing, books, and publishing. Think about the other industries that we could and should have a significant share in, and if we did the same thing repeatedly with that, with
we have a tremendous impact on a tremendous impact on our community.
Yeah.
Tremendous. Yeah. I'm going to have to get something written on that because it's something that we laugh about and we talk about. You know, I'm saying all of us laugh and we talk about it all the time. But it's not something we've widely shared with our community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That there is a success, because I know there are many people out there thinking we have no success there.
Right.
You know, one of the other things, I think I was talking about opportunity, you know, I just want to go back to that because I was talking with a brother yesterday who has printed with me forever.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's reached a point that his books have taken off. I mean, they're like blowing. And it doesn't make sense for him to print with me, even though he wants to print with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, he's actually, I mean, he's selling thousands of books. He's getting those turns of thousands of books within a year. So my opportunity was to talk with him last night and give him some advice on how he now needs to proceed. Okay. You know, how he can become successful. That was my opportunity last night. And that was in the middle of this Chronos stuff, right? Mm-hmm. It really, really is. So I really want us to look at what's happening and don't see all bad. If we only see all bad, then we're not seeing the world, because the world is not all bad. I really want us to look for our opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, one of the things, and then I'm going to open it up for questions before we close out real quick. One of the things that really, and we talked before we came on, that I was, let's say, impressed, and that just took me into you when I came to you to get my books printed, was I told you about, you took the time to talk to me because I had my book that I was looking to get done in a certain way. And you didn't just say, well, you know, we can't do it that way because my budget wasn't where I needed it to be and everything like that. And you took the time to explain to me what we could do with my book to make it fit into the budget that I had. And I was forever grateful for you for doing that and everything. How important is customer service to you when it comes to your business, when it comes to your brand, and then even us within the community?
That's really, really, really an important question and a critical question, Leroy. And that's one of those things that, again, I don't think I'll ever be as successful on, mm-hmm. you know, as I would like to be. I think customer service is like the bomb. It's like what we all should be going to sleep with at night and trying to figure out how we can do better with it. You know, forget making all the money in the world. Let's think about making our customers happy. You know, like letting them go to bed and saying, "Damn, wasn't that a great experience?" You know,
absolutely.
You know, wasn't that a great experience? You know, like the person who we satisfy. Now, I really, really believe this. The person who we piss off, that person is going to go tell 5 people,
for sure,
10 people, what have you. But the person who you make happy, they'll be talking about you forever.
Ever.
They'll be talking about you forever. And nobody really wants to hear that bad story. Everybody wants to hear the good story, you know? So like that customer service piece is not, I won't even think that it's our strong suit. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that I don't think it's our strong suit. You know, it's something that I feel we've got to constantly work at. And I'm not the best at it, you know? I'm just not the best. But I would say anybody wants to improve their sales, look at the customer service.
Wow, absolutely. Absolutely. So fellas, if you can unmute, and if you have any questions for Mr. Coates, you can actually, you want to come in and kind of introduce yourself and then ask Mr. Coates your question.
Yeah, sure thing. Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Dalen Allen. I have my bachelor's degree in psychology, my master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology. My specialty is data analytics and data visualization, and I'm a consultant by day, and I am theoretically entrepreneur by night. I'm just working on building my business.
Got it.
So with that in mind, one of the things that I do, I believe I do well, is data analytics and data visualization. And one of the things I understand that to be a successful entrepreneur or to be successful in anything you have to do in this world, you have to provide a service, whether it's customer service, whether that's providing need or filling a need or connecting someone with someone else. One of the things we do as people is service. So I'd like to know from your perspective, how can I as an individual use my skill and expertise in data analytics to provide a service for small businesses so that I can help them grow, build their network, and to ultimately be successful in their goals?
You know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Here's what I do know, or here's what I believe. I shouldn't say I know, okay? Here's what I believe. I think if you follow it as if it's like what turned you on, you know, like you get excited by it, it's like what lights you up and what have you. I think you carry that to the world and you carry that passion to the world. And I think that's what gets you successful. That's what gets you the business. You know, you take what you know and you break it down and apply it to whatever that situation is in front of you. And you apply it with the passion, not with the formulaic approach like this, but like, damn, yeah, I can see this, you know, like it works because it's coming from here, not from here.
Yeah.
I think if you carry that into I believe in passion.
Okay.
I really believe in passion, and I believe that passion trumps a whole heap of stuff, because when you have passion, you begin to see possibility. You know,
that's great news. I like the way that's, and just from what I'm understanding and learning now, that makes perfect sense. Not too long ago, I had a conversation with a gentleman, and actually Sunday we were talking about how our passions for being the best we can be not only gives us a monetary value, but we gain most of that value from iron sharpening iron, from our social network, by saying that, hey, we can push each other to go a step further just by opening up our horizons. Because, yeah, I agree with you. If looking at it kind of laser focus, whether that's things I do in my day job or the things I want to do in my entrepreneur career, looking at laser focus like this kind of makes it systematic, formulaic.
That's right.
Getting some of the same things that have happened before. And most of those businesses, they either failed or failed later. But doing it from a place helps you be flexible, helps you be like fluid, so that you can take that skill and apply it to something else, something new. And if I can't do it, I know someone in my network who can.
Yeah. No, I agree with you so much. And look, so one of the other things that that you've seen me do here, I just want to drop some philosophy on this part. Y'all already know that I ain't a big cat on business plans, right? So one of the other things that I am very, very big on is doing what I just did. And I'd ask you to consider it too. And that's like when you don't know something, just say you don't know it. You know what I mean? Really, really, really. Like we live in a society that pressures us to know. And the fact is we don't know. We can't know. We can't know everything, you know? One of the things about Ta-Nehisi, and y'all watch this the next time y'all see that boy doing his interviews, he will say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. He'll say that like 100 times. I guarantee you'll see it now. I don't know. Like, it's one of the things that I always raise my kids to understand about the world. You don't have to know everything.
Right.
And the fact that you don't know allows you to be able to listen closer so that you can understand. The other part is that the person who is engaged, who's asking you the question, probably already has the answer. If you leave it alone, they can get to the answer themselves, because see, you actually know much more about your work than what I do. You know, I don't know anything. As a matter of fact, I don't know anything about what you do. I used to do some industrial engineering reading, but I didn't get very far with it. Okay, so you know much more about that than I do. And if I get out of your way and just open it up, you will be successful, as opposed to giving you some crap that runs you around the block that you know is crap, you know?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, did we have any more questions for Mr. Coates?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Hey, Paul, I was I'm interested in again getting to some of the choices that have been made in terms of Black Classic Press, and also interested in what have brought about the Woodson series of books. These are books that I have, most of them, but I have the printings from 20 years ago before you were printing them. Yeah. And I as many will know, I sort of idolize Carter G in a very serious way. I've read many of his works. Sure. I look at him as sort of a godhead figure, and very much like yourself, was very self-driven, self-independent, very motivated by undoing the mistakes of the past or the wrongs that have been thrown our way. So his life is much dedicated to that thing. So seeing these titles as part of your catalog is, just for me, just a wonderful thing. I can't thank you enough for putting that stuff out there. The fact that you printing it puts it in front of, it gives it a new sheen, a new shine, and putting them all in one place is, I think, a very important move, because I've sort of quietly just been a Woodsonian on my own in a certain way, but not in a scholarly way, just as a guy who cares about our history and who honors the father of Black history. But what brought about this idea, or what brought about the Woodson series?
So Mark, it's very interesting. We've been publishing that. I mean, we've been printing now for about 25 years. And probably in the very first year, people from the association approached me about publishing Woodson's books. This was before they shut down their press. Now I had a long association with the folks from Associated Publishers, and the Association for the Study of Life and History. I have a long association with them even before I was printing books. But they were ready to close down. They wanted me to take it on. Those folks went back and forth for 20 years.
Wow.
I did probably about 5 presentations with them, but the board was so large and so dysfunctional that the deal could not go through. They were stalemated in a number of areas. Darrell Scott became the president at one point.
Yes, professor from Howard University.
And he picked up on it. He said he was going to get it through. And he did. It was one of the last things he did in office. We signed a contract. And now you have to understand that most all of Woodson's books are in public domain. So it's not like they actually can sign a contract with me. We could have published the books at any point whatsoever, but I refused to do it until we had permission from them.
Sure thing.
So Woodson, in addition to being the father, quote unquote, of Black history, Woodson was one of the most, Leroy, successful Black publishers that we ever had. He began publishing in 1915 and largely began publishing because white folks wouldn't publish his stuff. So he scraped up money for every one of those books that we have. Woodson scraped up money. People came to him with money, and that's how those books got published. The fact that there was a publisher, it began in 1915 doing those books like that, needed to be celebrated, and the association needed to make some money off of it. It wasn't good enough to just go out and republish the books. I wanted to do it and put their imprimatur on the books, so that even though we couldn't establish copyright, we could establish literary rights to it. See, and that legacy would belong to them. They don't do anything in terms of the publishing at all, but we treat the association as an author. And so we pay them a royalty, the same if it was a new book. I think it works both ways. This has to do dealing with that passion. You know, I'm passionate about Black folks and history and Black books and whatever. So it's going to show up. It's going to show up all around me. And that's what this is. Let me just share one other thing with you, because this one has not been announced. We still probably have, I think, close to 20 books to do in that Woodson series. So these are not only Carter Woodson's books, but they're books that were done under his auspices.
I see.
We're going to do his first. But there is another, so like Dr. Ben, like Carter Woodson, there's another publisher's books. There are two other publishers, actually, that will be releasing soon. We just haven't done it. In the middle of all this stuff, we just put it on hold. But you remember the brother Tony Martin.
Of course.
Who did Race First.
That's right.
Tony and I were friends at an early point when right after he did Race First, and Race First was a monumental book that really helped me understand Marcus Garvey and helped me understand my purpose.
Certainly.
Tony died in 2013, and he had about 13 books that he was publishing. So the family came to me last year and asked if I would republish Tony's books.
Wow.
Again, this is inside of passion.
Wow.
Inside of passion, and we've agreed to republish his books, and those books will start coming out.
Okay.
Sometime in May.
Well, that's great news. I mean, Tony Martin being a Jamaican, you know, obviously he has very close.
Trinidadian. He's Trinidadian.
Trinidadian. I mean, being Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's right. He has close ties to, you know, the whole story of Garvey.
Yes.
And yeah, we've enjoyed his lectures over the years. I remember his you know, very erudite speeches in those times. You know, I've always enjoyed Tony Martin's work.
Yeah. So that's another thing that's coming. There's also the Songhai people, the Ed Robinson. Do you know Ed Robinson's book?
I know of the book. I've not read it.
Okay, so Ed Robinson died a few years ago. He was legendary too. He published this book for probably 20 years.
Right, and this was like the history of the Songhai.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's actually a history of Black folks. It deals with Songhai people, but he's dealing with everybody as being that. So that one will also come out, and this is like continuing the legacy. It's like continuing the legacy. So again, I go back to, it's what motivates me, you know, like, I'm not motivated, and this goes back to your question. Like if you brought me the book and you said, well, this book is going to make the most money in the world, will you just publish this book? It has little interest to me. I'm interested, like we took on Walter Mosley thinking that the book would sell, and it did sell, but more it was about Walter Mosley, his desire to bring something back into the Black community.
Right.
Well, I'm aligned with that. You understand? I'm definitely aligned. And Leroy, this goes back. This is a demonstration. You know, so we can make some money too, but it's a demonstration. Out of that, though, because that was my alignment, because it was his alignment. The money was the least thing in there. That money was gone so fast, and so this is again going back to following the passion. The money was not the thing. It was like where we were aligned from our passions, and consequently, for the last 20 some odd years, I've had one of the best friends in my life. You know, because we're able to connect on there. The money left in 6 months. Broke. But I gained this wonderful example of working with him. The interesting thing about that is last year, this time, I guess it was last year, it would have been 2018, we were in France. And we were in France because Ta-Nehisi, following Walter's example, had taken his book to this French publisher,
I see.
Présence Africaine.
Yes.
Présence Africaine, you got to get this, Présence Africaine is actually the oldest Black publisher that we have among our active publishers.
Oh, wow.
I see. Wow.
So Présence Africaine came out of the whole piece of the Negritude movement. Cheikh Anta Diop was one of the founders who came together to find Présence Africaine. Well, that press still exists. When Malcolm went to France, that's where he went. There's a film of Malcolm going into that store. That's where he went. Not only is it still there, but there are 3 generations of Black women that are still running that store.
Wow.
There is Madame Diop, who is now probably about 95 and one of the baddest people on the planet. I mean, just her grace. Her grace. Like, Leroy, you talking to me and you telling me what I've done? I tried to do that to her. She said, she said, here she goes. She says, oh, no. I'm a nobody. And then her daughter's about my age. Mm-hmm. And then there's the granddaughter. 3 generations of Black women keeping this stuff alive. And they run the only real Black bookstore that's in France and in Paris.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So taking the book over to them, they also published, they published Cheikh Anta Diop's early work, and they published other stuff, man, that's magnificent in French it we'll never see. But the point is, by him taking that book over, he was doing what Walter did for me.
Mm-hmm.
You see, but it was on a diasporic level. That was the gesture. That was just, they had white folks that wanted to publish a book. They'd offered something like 100,000 pounds, right? Euros, 100,000 euros. Mm-hmm. And I just, no, I want to do it with a Black company, you know? And so those people, I said, we don't have any money. You know, what should we do? I said, offer 10,000 pounds, tell them that you'll pay 3,000 down, and 3,000 later, and 3,000 after the book comes out. Mm. I said, yeah, that's the deal. You know, and his publisher had to support him because they understood that's where his passion was. Mm. That's where he was throwing down.
Got it.
You know, so I know I go more and more as I get older and older. I go back and forth again on passion, and so that's what this is about.
Yeah, good. That's a serious thing you mentioned there, because it also underscores the sort of the business idea that everything is negotiation, and that deal. You know what I mean? Life is a series of negotiations, and that things can be negotiated. It's not as though there's a rule. I mean, you sort of create your own rules through the process of negotiation in a certain way. Yeah. So, I mean, that's for the benefit of the group, because I know there are a number of books that treated this subject in the business world, and you just gave a pretty good African example of that right there. Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty good thing too. Just one more question before now that I got you, man, it's pretty awesome. I noticed you put out the piece from Manu Ampim, about the Willie Lynch story. This is something we've talked about for many years, because there are many millions of Black folks who still believe this is a true thing and that this person actually existed. And I'm sure, Manu, as many of us have, I'm glad you put that out. What led to that decision? Did he come to you for that one? Because that's a piece that we've been battling on the front lines for many years.
I think I went to Manu on it. And again, that's aligned passions, you know? Like that whole piece on Willie Lynch, if you want to hit my button, start talking about Willie Lynch.
Same here. Yeah, we've been dealing with that one for a long time on the front lines.
I did not go to the Million Man March, but I did watch that piece that Farrakhan did on the Million. I mean, I almost busted 20 blood vessels, that man up there talking stuff about Willie Lynch. And so even before that, I kept saying, I have to get a book done. I have to do a book on Willie Lynch. I have to do a book on Willie Lynch. And Jelani had done a wonderful article on Willie Lynch, and I'd asked Jelani if we could expand it, and he never really resonated with that. I asked Ta-Nehisi to do something on it, and they didn't feel it. You know, they knew what it was, but they didn't feel it in the same way.
I got you. Yeah, because Jelani's piece was really the first piece that came out. And, you know, and I still have a copy of that article somewhere. That was really authoritative and to the point as well. We're talking about the article, I think it was, I don't know, in the Nation or somewhere. Like, I forget where it was printed.
I can't remember where it was.
But it made a fairly wide circulation there, just pretty much just telling you that it was a historical lie. When the letter so-called came out and was brought out, I mean, I could tell just from the writing that it was sort of,
I mean, anybody that had 50 cents on their brain or 10 cents on their brain should have been able to tell from the writing that this is not something that was done a couple hundred years ago. So Manu actually did the piece on that, Marcus, that I was most impressed with. And when I saw it, I had known Manu before, so we knew each other. Yes. And I went to him and asked him, it wasn't something that I felt would make any money. Again, not make any money, but it could in fact kill that myth.
Sure thing.
It could kill that myth. So it's interesting you asked about this because Leroy talked about conversation. So we're just trying to get the mechanics right on this, but we are going to do a conversation on Willie Lynch. At some point in some point down the line, we're going to do this conversation and have Manu come on. If I can get Jelani on, I'll get Jelani to come on as well. But we're going to give that book away as part of the thing. We'll give it away as an ebook. We'll give it away as print copy. It won't matter. The part I haven't figured out is that postage will cost more than the book. Get it to people. So I got to figure out how to do that and have people do postage or something. But we expect to do that probably at some point into this month, early next month. That's going to be a discussion. That is, because there will still be people. Manu outlined that there were three groups of people that just believed it emphatically. Other people who said, like you said, well, this is crap. And then there's a group of people say, well, it may not all be true, but that is how the white man is.
Right.
That's still the case.
It is still the case, right? And that's where the discussion is needed right there. That's true. And I'll open it up from that point, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I definitely look forward to that conversation because that is such a great, whether it's myth or whether it fact or fiction with that, because there is that debate that has gone on about Willie Lynch. But I address this, and then we're gonna close out, and I'm gonna close out with you giving your information for people that of course want to use Black Classic Press for printing and for publishing. Two things. One, you talked about passion, and you and I talked before about passion is that impact that I talked about. You chasing passion. Chasing that passion is that impact that you have on the community and people as a whole. And when you find people, like you talked about the lady in France, the 95-year-old lady, she's chasing the impact. And that impact that she's had has changed the world of the people that she's encountered. And that's what that's all about. And the second thing that I wanted to talk about, you had yesterday, you had the discussion on Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, which is near and dear to my heart because I'll give you my backstory with her. I was in college and my buddy told me, he was like, you gotta watch this. It was it was a DVD, not a DVD, it was a video recorder, videotape. It was a videotape. He's like, man, you gotta watch this videotape of this woman talking about this crest-stereo color confrontation. And so I went and I watched it, and Mr. Coates, I've not been the same ever since I listened to that, and ever since I read the ISIS papers from her. I call her my third mother. I have my biological mother. I have the woman that in high school took me under her wing as this student and just molded me and helped me to understand what life was about, even as a student, but also about achieving and being Black in this world. And Frances Cress Welsing did that on another level. To me, being in college, it just like I tell people, it explained everything that goes on in this world to me.
Wow.
When as I read the ISIS papers, and then as I come to watch many of the videos that she's done on the crest theory of color confrontation, on racism, all of those things. And then when I saw you were doing the Osiris papers, which was I think it was that you have that's like the kind of follow up to that and everything.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh wow, this is such a great piece of literature that not a lot of people understand and know who this great woman was in and for our community and everything like that. So I thank you for doing that, and that's a part of the great thing that you do with Black Classic Press. You've given, just by the other gentleman, you've given us so much material and literature that we would not see. I don't believe that we wouldn't see, and that you're not gonna hear about this in mainstream media. You're not. These are gonna be things that you just don't. So I'm thankful for people like you who find that passion in it to bring it to those of us who have a passion for reading it and have a passion for wanting to do the same thing, so that we can learn from you all that have come before us to know what we need to do, so that can be passed on, that legacy can be passed on, that learning can be passed on, that knowledge can be passed on. So I wanted to say that to you. And I'd like to have you close out by just give your contact information, where people can find Black Classic Press and where they can find all of the information, the books that you talked about, all of those things. And then you can give us a word, however you want to close us out with your words of wisdom.
Sure. So again, the company is Black Classic Press. You can find us on the web at Black Classic Press. You can find the books we publish as blackclassicbooks.com. But if you just Google us, you'll absolutely find us. The printing company is BCP Digital Printing. That's Black Classic Press Digital Printing. It's very important for us to keep and maintain that identity. So you're going to find us on the web at BCP Digital Printing. We are the only Black-owned book printing company in the country at this point.
That's what I was going to ask you.
It's got two sides on that.
Okay.
It's got the one side on it that we take great pride in that. The other side of it is it's a tragedy and a sadness that I would sit here and be able to say that. Wow. Because it means that every other book that you put your hands on and that you touch was actually printed by somebody else. Mm-hmm. And what it means is that circle, that economic circle that we talked about earlier, there's a big hole in it when it comes to the whole notion of generating books. There's a big hole. Let me just say one last thing in closing out. Black Classic Press. When I went to Atlanta University in 1978, I left Baltimore. I went there to work on a graduate degree. And I was sitting around, I already had the name Black Classic Press when I went there. But there was an experience in Atlanta that solidified that name. Mm. I was sitting in Soul Vegetarian, the Hebrew joint that's there. Okay. And sitting with some brothers and sisters, and people going around, they introduced themselves, they introduced me, and they said, oh, well, you're from Baltimore. Okay, what do you do? I said, well, I'm in school, et cetera, but I'm publishing. And they said, oh, wow, great, man. So what's the name of your company? This is one brother. And I told him, I said, Black Classic Press. That brother said, God damn, I like that. He said, niggas got classics too. And when he said that, I mean, he was saying it sort of tongue in cheek, right? But what he was saying just solidified it to me and just said, yes, that is the name. Because what he was saying was what the whole thing that led me to it. The whole thing that led me to it is like we get to define what's classic.
That's right.
Well, I mean, I get to define it. Yeah, me, I get to define it. I get to define what is Black and classical. And that's what he was saying.
That's right.
He was saying that we have that power. That's where the two came in. You know, in other words, he recognized that white folks had the power, but we have that power too. And I'm going to close on that, Leroy.
Say that again, Mr. Coates.
No, I said I'm going to close on that.
Oh, okay. No, that and that's an excellent way to close. And not only, just to kind of piggyback off of that, not only did that say about we having that power, but also he saw that we had something that was ours.
That's right.
And he could like you said, he said, you know, we have, you know, we got a Black, and it is, I mean, that kind of understanding, that kind of power that we have is truly something that is enlightening and empowering when we can do that. So I thank you for doing that for us, because Black Classic Press is something, it does empower us, because those books that you all print, those books that you all publish, they give us power. They give us the understanding of the power that we have. So on behalf of all of us, I thank you, Mr. Coates. I thank you for taking the time out of your schedule, your busy schedule today, to come and talk with us, to grace us with your knowledge, the wisdom, and the resources that you brought to us today. I think more of us need to sit at the feet of our elders so that we can learn from you all, to do, like I said before, to take that knowledge that we gain from you all and pour that into the generation that becomes behind us. Because I've always said, and real quick, and then I'm going to end on this, that I always look at it as a picture and the glass theory. You know how you go to a restaurant and you sit at a table and there's glasses, or they bring the glasses and they sit at the table. But then they bring you a pitcher of water, tea, ice, or whatever. They bring that to the table and the pitcher pours into the glasses that are there. And sometimes we are the pitcher, sometimes we're the glass where we get poured into. And sometimes we're the pitcher where we pour into. You are one of our pitchers. You are my pitcher for tonight. And you poured into me as the glass. And then it is our duty, our responsibility, now that we've gotten poured into, to then pour into that generation that comes behind us. That's how you have those, that's how the legacies get, the legacy gets passed on.
I agree.
So, you know, all of those things, and the words never die. Those stories that are in those books that you have, they last forever. So I thank you. I thank everybody for tuning in, being in tonight. This has been just a
thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. This has been the
Marcus,
brand
good
new.
to see you, man.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we'll hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Sure enough.
Absolutely.
Everybody, be well.
And this is the brand new
Pleasure.
development series. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all soon. Chase the impact, because when you chase the impact, you change the world. We'll talk to you all soon.
Take care.
All right.